The next item is the selection of superintendent search consultant firm. Acting Superintendent Wayne Eads, have you something to introduce at this point? This is an action item, and I would entertain a motion.
I've got a question on the motion. How do you make the motion the way it's written out here?
Insert a name of a consulting firm.
Fill in the blank.
We have two.
Mm-hmm.
Identify one that you wish to make the motion for and read it in,
Okay.
if you'd like to, or whoever would like to.
Would you like me just to set this with some
Perhaps.
of the activities the board
Perhaps you
has
may.
done?
Thank you.
The board has been tasked with selecting a settled superintendent. They have received proposals, witnessed presentations, conducted interviews, completed due diligence with reference checks and conversations with other boards about their experience with these two finalist firms for this contract. So this proposal is an action item, and I realize that the motion doesn't have a name in it, but that will be up to a board member to make that motion with whatever firm they wish to select.
Mr. Hall.
Make sure I've got the right one here. I move that the Board of Education of Weld County School District 6 approve the selection of HYA consultant firm to conduct the search process for a new superintendent and authorize the board and superintendent to sign the contract.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion, please. Mr. Hall.
Oops, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I didn't get back down.
Comment regarding this motion? Can be general.
Can it be in general, just in the discussion of both?
I believe it should be.
You know, my concern doesn't matter which group it is, in that we not only seek candidates from the state of Colorado, but we expand the horizons to the abilities of the search groups. And I know that CASB doesn't do that as often, and my question is, you know, it's a rhetorical one. I would like to see us have them, if they're the ones selected, extend it to a greater area and be more diligent about that.
Dr. Richard?
You know, as we did interviews with other board members from other school districts, it became clear that, you know, it's good because both firms have real strengths and have real histories in doing this sort of thing. And so that always puts you in a better position as a decision maker, knowing that really we've got two strong companies there. There were some things, though, I was looking for as a board member. I felt that when we had the interviews with the two different companies, that HYA didn't demonstrate as clear a knowledge of our district. There was no evidence that they understood our demographics, as well as CASB evidence that they used specifics in the interview, identifying that they'd done their research. And I think that when someone comes in for an interview, it gives you an indication of how primed they are to want a certain job and how well they'll do by you in that. A difference there I also was looking at is the kind of work that they've placed people in Colorado with similar demographics, which says something about their network of people. And clearly, within the last 5 years, CASB has placed more principals in Colorado school districts, superintendents, with similar demographics rather than HYA. When it came to the community engagement piece, one of the things that struck me is, you know, they both tend to community engagement, but the piece that I found from CASB was a remark about this community engagement community engagement about the superintendent selection should be part of your ongoing community engagement process. And that, to me, gave an indication that CASB understood how important community engagement is to us and understanding of our policy, and that this is part of a process, not just a simple set aside, a one-shot thing that we do and move on from. As to the recruitment, that's an important thing for me too. I'm looking for something, a pool that's deep and that is wide. And in that respect, coming through AASA Education Week, the tentacles that put out there, I didn't find a huge difference. I think we also as a board will get what we pay for when we do that recruiting, or whether we go with either one of them. If we give that direction, both of them clearly have those tentacles. In my conversation with Moffett, smaller school district in Colorado, one of their 3 finalists was from a state very far from here. So clearly they have CASB does have the capacity to reach out further. But I guess for me, the final part was that transition from selecting a superintendent to beginning that relationship with the superintendent. And, the superintendent search is kind of a matchmaker sort of thing. But we want it to be a successful match. And I was struck by the fact that CASB, as part of their regular course of the superintendent search, includes automatically at the end the opportunity to facilitate a work session so that boards can then begin working with the superintendent, working on norms, goals, and practices. And that kind of transitional work means a higher potential of a successful match. In HYA's case, that was an add-on that you could choose to purchase. And so that's why I was struck with CASB's proposal that automatically included that. Those are some of the things that are on my mind as I take a look at these 2 companies.
Ms. Elise?
I would piggyback a little bit on what Julia said. This is a really important role in our community. And there have been some relationships in our community that have been strained, and those are things that we need to work on. And that's nothing either company could have known coming in for the interview process. But the fact that CASB came in with the knowledge already about our community and already making suggestions on who you want to make sure is at the table really kind of intrigued me, because those are the same thoughts I've been thinking of, who we need to make sure that we have at the table, and that we're always reaching out to community. And that's really a huge part for me. This is a new thing. I've never been involved in this process, but it's a very serious job. And I felt as though CASB was taking that part of it more seriously, which made me feel a little bit more at ease. This isn't an easy process at all. It's very important. It's going to affect a lot of kiddos, a lot of families, and so we have to do this the right way. And the fact that there were so many processes that CASB brought forward to not only help us reach out to community, and those conversations included not having any of us board members there. It was the CASB and the community, so that they could really get an open gauge as to what community wants. And that's really important to me. HYA had some great things that it offered, but it wasn't as personable in the presentation, and the follow-up wasn't as easy and accessible as it was through CASB. So those were some of my takeaways from going through the interview process, and this is going to be a really tough decision for all of us.
If I may share a couple of my comments or thoughts about this, I had the opportunity to speak to some individuals in both the Pueblo School District and a school district in New Jersey representing clients of CASB and HYA. And I came away with the feeling that both of these are competent organizations, professional organizations that we want to rely on to perform this search, as Ms. Elise was saying. What stood out for me was a couple of inconsistencies or curiosities in the HYA proposal, which included in part some of the questions about cost. And there's a fixed cost, but there are some fees, and during our presentation with the Colorado representatives, the fees, a couple of fees were actually waived in our presence. And so there were questions in my mind of what is the contract we're being offered and what is the price? The other thing that stood out for me was, and I express this as my own opinion, but it seemed to me that that CASB had a little more sensitivity to diversity in our community and the need for bilingual presentations, and seemed to be much more comfortable in having that as part of their presentation package. So those things stood out for me as I'm looking over these two firms. Mr. Hall?
I think I agree in the statement that both companies are very reputable and they're very experienced. I think what it comes down to, in my opinion, is this. I didn't sense, maybe it's because I'm from a little different career path, in that virtually anything in business is a negotiation. So the price thing doesn't worry me. That doesn't worry me. That's just a part of doing business. But the services offered, to me, they were very similar. The two gentlemen that came in that represented from Colorado did know, in fact, our district and did know the diversity in our district, and made a remark about that and similarities with another district that they named specifically. One which was named specifically was Fort Lupton by those two gentlemen. So to me, I think that's a wash at this point. So when you come all down to it, I think either one will do an efficient search. What it comes down to me is looking for that little extra. And it became apparent to me through some communications and in just talking, and CASB is a Colorado-based organization, and they specialize in Colorado. So they should know Colorado. I mean, they do it all the time, and they've got the big name. So doesn't cut any slack towards HYA because they're in that same business also. But I was not disgruntled by the two that would serve us. I think where the difference comes in is we're going to have two districts searching at the same time. And it doesn't come in with any shadow on the integrity of either search firm because they would both do fine, and I don't want to impugn that at all. But I think it comes down to you're going to get, we would get the exact same amount of Colorado candidates with either one. Because it's going to be a widely known thing that things are being searching. I think the wild card is of what we don't get with CASB and what we do get with HYA is better national exposure and possibly a more variety of choices. So, because that's the nature of HYA's recruiting methods. To me, that's a big thing because we've got some monumental challenges. One of the things, if I'm not mistaken, the gentleman that was brought into the Miami-Dade School District was not from Miami-Dade. Went through a national search firm. So we have a lot of challenges. And we have just some of the greatest people in the world in this district and in this community. And we want to be sure that we get the right person that can lead this organization into the future, that crosses all those bridges of diversity, that answers those questions, that takes the direction of the board, what the board tells them they want and want to find. And I believe that match comes, and I believe the only way we get that wide pool that you were talking, that wide and deep pool, and even a more diverse pool, is with HYA.
Thank you. Other comments? Mr. Richardson?
Well, I do think that both firms are very competent firms, and I think that whichever firm we choose, I think that we will likely be pleased. In my mind, I think it comes down to, if I had to speak in generalities, I think that CASB provides a more Colorado touch, as has been said. They're located here. I think we might get a better and quicker response simply by geography. I mean, I think that response times and the ability to have meetings is more flexible with that, which means our community outreach will probably be more effective with CASB. I do agree with Steve that the flip side of that is I think that we'll get more exposure, more candidates on a national level with HYA, and that's kind of what I'm deliberating about, is which of those two factors is going to prevail. Is that, do we want the more closer to home touch, or do we want the wider pool? And that's kind of what I'm still wrestling with in my mind even right now. So, those are kind of my thoughts on it.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Roll call, Ms. Brand?
Mr. DeWitt?
No.
Mr. Haefele?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Lydiak?
No.
Dr. Richard?
No.
Mr. Richardson?
No.
Mrs. Solis?
No.
And the motion fails, 5-2.
At this point, I'll ask for a second motion.
I move that the Board of Education of Weld County School District 6 approve the selection of CASB to conduct the search process for a new superintendent and authorize the board president and superintendent to sign the contract.
A second, please.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Ms. Brand?
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Haefele?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
No.
Mr. Lydiak?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mr. Richardson?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
And the motion carries, 6-1.
Thank you very much. The next and last item on the agenda is the interim superintendent appointment and contract. It is an action item, and I would entertain this motion at this time.
My glasses.
Page
I
9.
move that the Board of Education of Weld County School District 6 appoint Wayne Eads as the interim superintendent until June 30, 2015, and approve the interim superintendent contract as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. What discussion have we today about this? Mr. Haefele?
The points that we discussed during the work session, is that considered part of this contract now?
Yes, those,
Oh, yes.
Ms. Faria
As
has-
amended, actually.
Okay.
As amended, yeah. As
Okay.
amended during the work
Sorry.
session, so.
My
Do
ears.
we need to add that to the motion?
Should we specifically state that on the motion?
Well, it wasn't in the session. If you haven't acted on it on your motion, you don't need to restate anything.
Okay, we're fine.
I couldn't hear it.
We're okay with the motion.
Okay. Thank you.
I see nobody's lights on.
I'll say something.
Mr. Richardson, thank you.
Well, I think that this reflects my interactions with Wayne and with people that have worked with Wayne since he's been named the acting superintendent, and kind of working along those paths has been very, very positive with staff members and people of the community. I know that Wayne's reached out to many groups in the community, which is really important in his line of work, and I have just heard very good things about Wayne to this point, and I appreciate his extra efforts and understanding. He came into a little bit of a difficult situation with difficult timing, but I'll be voting yes. I know that Wayne's been doing a great job, and support him.
Other comments? Mr. Hall?
Real short one. I think we're very fortunate to have someone such as Wayne to be able to step in this time period. And I echo what Mr. Richardson said. we could be in utter chaos, but we've got a leader that is willing to step in and highly capable. So I thank him, and I'll be voting yes on this.
Ms. Solis?
I think it was really tough to kind of change the energy from the big change that we made and to put someone in place and not feel like we were still doing the same thing over and over. So I really want to commend Wayne for putting himself out there and really showing that we could do things differently and it could be done really quickly, and that the experience within the district is a different experience now. So thank you.
The comment I would make is simply that I've appreciated the fact that the staff has responded positively to your leadership, and that was a requirement of successfully taking us to the next step, so I'll be voting in favor of this appointment as well. Other comments? Roll call, Ms. Brea?
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Haefele?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Lydiak?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mr. Richardson?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
And the motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very much. Well, that concludes this evening's school board meeting. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.